Hey guys, it's Jair, and I'm going to be showing you Samaritano's new features. So we're going to be continuing off where I left off in the last video with the introduction of the new event stubs. Finally, everything's complete and it's committed to the repository, and you guys can check it out and use it for yourselves. So I'm going to be also showing you guys some additional features that I added to the library, just so we have a big picture of the whole thing. So let's just get started by creating a project, call it example. And then I'll make a new package called example and a main class. Alright, sweet. So here's our class. And let's just get started by importing the Samaritano library. Alright, so just remember that you guys will need Java 8 or later to run Samaritano in your project. Samaritano is designed with Java 8 functional interfaces in mind, so of course you need to be using Java 8. So let's refresh, and you guys can see by this little icon that means that Samaritano is integrated with your project and that you're ready to use the library. Alright, so let's start off with the new features of dependency injection, because that's core to understand the rest. So first we'll get an injector. Typical dependency injection dot create injector, and voila, we have our little injector just like before. And then of course, if you're unfamiliar, you can do instance of with your class type. Say you want a logger, and we'll get ourselves a logger. We're going to be importing that for Samaritano. Okay, and then we'll need finally a logging module to set up all the bindings. And let's go ahead and use this logger, and we'll just do an info. Hello world. Alright, so as we run it, we get our logging output, hello world, just like that. So you see that it's able to construct a logger. That's due to the logging module. Okay, so let me first introduce you guys to the new logging system. Okay, so logger has kind of been given some additions and some more flexibility for you guys. So not only can you make your own logging types, because inside it is an internal SPI, you can also provide just a functional interface for your output. So say you want a logger called magic logger or something, right? We can call it to logging, and we're going to say, okay, we don't want a global logger. We don't want to generate a new logger. We want to generate a new logger with an outputter. Okay, and this outputter, this is a new interface that I introduced, and its job is to show a log message. So you receive your object, which is the message, and then you receive a level. And you can use that information to display the message however you want. By default, logging is using a system error outputter. But you can also use a lambda here. Say you want M and L. You can say do system out, just system out M, and that's it. So voila, you have your magic logger, and then with magic logger, you can do, I don't know, some info. Hey there, isn't this magic? Just like that, you have your outputter working with a functional interface. Of course, you can include like the level here. So you want to do level.name or something like that. You can just go right ahead and just like that, customize a logger to your will. By default, it's set up exactly like Java's built-in logger. But yeah, I'm showing you guys there's tons of flexibility, and it's very easy to set up. Okay, let's just go over the methods really quick. Global logger is what used to be just .logger. I've now given you guys the option to create individual logging instances, and just .logger will return a logger with the default outputter. Okay, so that's pretty much covers it. So let's show you guys the secrets behind how we're getting this logger. So we're going to go into the logging module. So voila, everything looks normal, right? Not really. So if you guys can see here, there is a new feature inside the linked binding builder that lets you bind a type to an instance of the type just as a singleton. Except now you're the one that provides a type to the library. Google Juice doesn't have this. I've never really seen a dependency injection library with this feature, but I've always wanted it and it's always come in use for me. Isn't that cool, right? So again, system error outputter, what is that? It's an outputter. And we're passing that as an instance for this. And then logger, same thing. We're passing, binding a logger to the instance of a logger. It's a logger value. And yeah, you guys can use this yourself. I've used it here for an example. So you see the logger by default is bound to the global logger. All right. So very easy to understand. So let's just make our own module really quick. So I'll just get started with, I don't know, example module. We're just going to do the old abstract module. We're going to import the method. And we're going to start making some bindings. What do we want to bind? I don't know. I guess I'll just show you guys like the syntax. Say you just want to bind main, right? Previously you have, I'll show you guys all the two methods. Previously you just had toSelf and to an implementation. toSelf is equivalent to doing to main.class. Okay, it's just a shorthand for it. And then after you bind it, say toSelf, you get a scope option. So you can say, okay, I want to bind it in singleton scope. So what the injector is going to do is when you ask for a main, it's going to look up lazily for the main instance. It's going to construct it, and then it's going to store that in memory, store that instance in memory. And every other time you're using this injector, it's going to return that same main instance because it's in the singleton scope. Okay, and then if you're not in singleton scope, if you're not in the singleton scope, it's going to bind to self, and every single time you ask for a main instance, it's going to construct a new one. All right, so let's talk about the new methods. So let's just start off with main value. So main value, you bind main to a main. So to new main, voila. Now every time that you are asking for a main, this is special here. Notice how it returns void on this to method. That means that every time you ask for a main, it's going to return this exact instance that you're passing in here. All right. So literally, that's what it does. Like you ask for main, it's going to return that instance, store it forever. It's pretty much equivalent to a singleton. And the same thing's used here. It's just I'm just doing this with methods. You can pass in the method instance reference. Okay, so that's one thing. And then another thing is you can do main to this new method, which is to a provider of main. So provider is a new functional interface that I added to dependency injection, and provider is used as a factory, right? Like say you have really complex setup. Like say you have an object that you need to connect to a database, you need to connect to some web service, you got to get some info to construct the object, right? Like say it's a big process and you don't want to have all that process inside your module configuration. So you're going to do that with a provider. But since it is a functional interface, we can just go ahead and here, and we could just say return, I don't know, new main, and voila, just like that. But note, this is different than doing to new main, because what is held here is the provider instance when you're doing to. That keeps the provider instance. So what I'm telling you guys is that this is going to create or do this process every single time you ask for a main. If you put in singleton, in scopes.singleton, if you put in scopes.singleton, then every time once it constructs this lazily, once it gets the provision, it's going to keep that reference stored, and then every time you ask for a main, it's going to return that same instance that was done with the provider. All right. So that's another cool feature. And then Another thing you can do is you can make a class, like say main provider, right? Implement provider of main, and then you do your setup there, and then you can just do to new main provider. All right. So hopefully that is useful for you guys. So that pretty much covers the new dependency injection features. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's start working on a event manager. So let's get an event manager with dependency injection. Instance of event manager. Event manager class. Okay, so here's our event manager. We can use it as expected. So let's go ahead and make an example. Let's make an eat event. Typical example, I know, guys. Oh, what is that? Okay, here we go. Eat event, and then we're gonna make an eat listener. And that's gonna implement event listener. Okay, and let's register that eat listener, and then we're gonna post our new eat event. Okay, sweet. So let's just go make a stub in here. Add subscribe, void on eat event. We're eating. Cool. All right, so we have that all set up. Oh yeah, sorry. You need a event module. Okay, so now when we run it, we get we're eating. Voila. Everything works as expected, and we also have our info method. But remember in the last video that I explained the new types of stubs that you can use. So let's just say eat event had a food. Let's add a food in here. For time's sake, I'll just make it a public food. Yeah, say you just had a food in here, and then I guess we'll have a constructor for that. Okay, so there you go. Say we pass in, I don't know, apples. And then over here in the eat listener, again, typical example, event.food. Now it's going to say, as you guys expected, we're eating apples, right? But like, what if we wanted a logger, right? Do we really have to have a logging instance? Like, why do we have to go to the boilerplate of doing this, right? Do we really need to do this? Like, do we really need to put that there? Like, why do we have to do all this? Like, or what if this class has dependencies, that like these methods have dependencies that you need in the class? Then you have to construct that manually, like without even dependency injection. Like no, man, you guys don't want to do that. You guys just want a logger, right? And you just want you want your event type and you want your logger. So let's just go add a logger, and let's subscribe it to eat event.class, because now we're just asking for an eat event. So this is the new stubs. If you don't understand how it really works, then look at the last video. But you should understand how it works if you just look here. But yeah, now we're going to use that logger to do info, to say we're eating, the food type. All right. So this is where the magic is. This is the real magic, right? Before I talked about @provide in the last video, and you would need to establish a logger inside of your eat event. Well, what's the use of that, right? Like, don't you already have the means to get a logger, right? Like, where can you construct a logger with? Oh, right, dependency injection, right? We're already doing it here. So why can't we just reuse that again? And I told you guys in the last video, I wanted this feature. So why can't we just have this feature? So I added it. So now we can go manager.register, and you'll notice that there's a new method to register an injector. So we're going to do just that. We're going to register our injector, then we're going to register our eat listener, and then we're going to post our event. And now, almost like magic, you're getting you're getting a logger in here without setting up any provider or any at provide field or method or whatever. So it's almost equivalent. Like, look, you have we're eating apples, and just like magic, it just got in there, right? Isn't that crazy? So, like, say you want an event manager too now. Some reason you want an event manager in there, and I don't know. I don't know. Some reason you just want to have this here. Some reason you just wanted that there. I don't know. Just to check, to show you guys that it works. So look, is event manager null? Nope, it's not. So pretty awesome. Like, literally all you're doing is you're just passing in, like, you're saying, okay, I want an event manager. It's already set up. It's already in my modules, and you're going to be able to get it in your event stubs. And this isn't really detracting from the speed. It's still, it's still your decent speed, except now we have module access. We can say that we want something, that any kind of object that's set up in our injector, and we can use it. And the cool part is you can use multiple injectors to do this. So you have this main injector right here. You want to register to the event manager. So you have another injector down the street. You want to register here. You can register unlimited injectors, and it's going to be able to use them all to search out your desired type to pass into the reference. So let's just say in each event, we did set up a logger, right? I'll just set up a custom logger here just to show you guys. Logger equals logger dot, logging dot logger, and we're gonna set up our custom outputter. So we'll just get our message and our level, and we'll just do a sysout. Oops. We'll just do a sysout of the message, I suppose. Okay. So what if we set up a provision right here with @provide, like in the last video, for this type of logger? Would that change what's going to happen in here? Like, is that going to change how this stuff is processed? Actually, yes. Voila. We're eating apples. We have the false statement. Just like that. So easy. And you notice the priority over. I'll explain the priority right now for you guys. So what it's doing first is it's checking for methods. The event poster is looking for methods first. So if it can find a method with @provide, it's going to use it. Then it's looking for fields. If it can find a field with @provide, it's going to use that. Then it's going to look through all your injectors, and if an injector can provide an instance of that type, it's going to take that, use that instance, and then return it back and pass it in. Just like that, like almost like magic, you're getting all these arguments, all these types. You have everything. Remember, if you're writing your project with dependency injection, you have access to every single type that you registered. Every single binding is all at your fingertips, and you get it with the event system automatically. So to me, that's something that I really, I really appreciate, that I have a system like this to do this. And I hope you guys find it just as useful as I do. I know I'm running some awesome projects with this, games and stuff. It's very easy to set up an entire project system without even thinking about how to wire it together. That's the point of Samaritan. I'm here and I'm making Samaritan so that you guys don't have to wire together your application ever again. Don't worry about wiring in Java, because that's something that Java developers don't like about Java. We don't like the wiring. We don't like thinking about the wiring. We're just caring about the business logic, right? You like the fun stuff. You like the games. You like the science that you can do with Java. You like all of the meat and potatoes of what you want to do. What people don't like about Java is that you have to wire everything together, and it's ridiculous. It's so hard to manage. It's just ridiculous. But with Samaritan, you're going to have an easier experience. That's my goal of Samaritan, to give you guys an easier experience while programming Java, and hopefully change the way you guys program. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. You guys can check out the project on GitHub in the description. And thank you guys, and I'll see you.